3 years of my life gone just like that, and all I had left was a mess of bills and a heart full of regret. I met Kenny on a random day that was supposed to be boring. I was on the Amtrak, headed to see my sister in Chicago, when the train hit something on the tracks. Not a full crash, but enough to stop everything and leave us stranded in some tiny Pennsylvania town. They shuffled us into buses and dumped us in this place that had one diner, one bar, and a sad little store. The diner filled up fast, so I ended up in the bar scrolling through my phone and waiting to tell my sister I'd be late. That's where I met him. Kenny was 2 stools over, cracking some joke about how we were all getting the authentic small-town experience. I laughed because he was cute and funny and had these really nice hands. I always notice hands don't know why we got to talking. Turned out he was heading in the same direction and had a job interview lined up. He said he was tired of the corporate grind and wanted to build something real. I told him I worked in logistics, not glamorous but solid. After a few hours and a couple beers, we traded numbers. I didn't expect anything, but he texted the next day, and we met up again when I got back home. His interview didn't work out, but he had another one coming, and another after that. Always something just about to happen. I didn't mind at first, the job market's rough, and he was sweet and charming. After 6 months, his lease was ending, and since my place was bigger and closer to everything, and I was already paying for most of our dates anyway, it made sense when he asked to move in. At first, things were okay. He paid rent the first month, then it got late. Then came the excuses. A delayed check, a client missed a payment, always something out of his hands. But he swore he'd catch up. I let it slide, because I could handle the bills just barely. He stayed home, cleaned, cooked dinner, and I told myself it was temporary. Then the excuses piled up, and my account kept shrinking. I picked up weekend shifts, started doing inventory work, and every night he'd rub my back and tell me how amazing I was, and how he'd pay me back when his big break came. My friend Jay asked why I was paying for everything. I got defensive, said it was just a phase. But after that talk, I started noticing things more clearly, like how he used my card for little things, without asking how the fridge was always empty, even though I was spending more, and how he had money for drinks and games, but never rent. One time, I brought up marriage just casually, and he acted like I'd asked to jump off a bridge, said we were fine, and why rush. I dropped it. I shouldn't have. Then suddenly he changed. He started going out more. Said he was meeting people, going to events, catching up with old contacts. And I believed him, because I wanted to. One Friday my friend M invited me to dinner, said bring Kenny, but he told me he had a networking thing. So I went alone at dinner. M was acting weird, checking her phone and giving me these pity looks. Then her boyfriend showed up and casually asked if Kenny had liked the open bar at the tech event the night before. My heart sank. He said he saw Kenny with his fiancée. I froze. M hesitated, then handed me her phone. It was an Instagram post from a blonde woman named Daria. Photos of string lights, champagne, a diamond ring. Caption said, I said yes. I scrolled and saw weeks of posts. My man date nights, the beach 2 weekends ago, when Kenny said he was visiting family. I left dinner in a fog, went home, checked our shared credit card, and saw charges for places I'd never been. A hotel, a jewelry store for almost $3,000. He bought her ring with my money. I sat in the dark staring out the window, trying to make it make sense. Around 9, he walked in like everything was normal, grabbed a beer like nothing happened. I asked where he'd been. He said networking. I asked if he'd gotten engaged, and he gave me this smirk like he was proud. I asked if he bought a ring for the woman in the photos. He shrugged and said, Can we not do this now? I don't owe you anything. I started shaking. I screamed at him, told him he used me and lied and cheated. And that's when he said it. Come on, you really thought I'd give you a ring? You're the kind of girl men settle for when they fail. Something snapped. I don't remember deciding, but my fist hit his chest hard, and when he stumbled, I slapped him across the face and told him to get out. I grabbed his stuff and threw it in a bag and said if he wasn't gone in 5 minutes, I'd call his new fiancée and tell her everything. He left, slammed the door, and I changed the locks the next day, put his stuff by the dumpster, blocked him on everything, and thought maybe I was done with him. But then I checked my accounts again and realized it was worse than I thought. Over $5,400 in charges, not including the rent and groceries and everything else. He'd been bleeding me dry slowly without me seeing it. If you've ever ignored the red flags because you were in love, don't beat yourself up, just learn from it and protect your peace. And hey, if you've ever been through something like this, drop a red heart in the comments and tell someone else what you wish you knew earlier. Call your best friend right now and tell them to change their Netflix password before it's too late. Just do it. You'll thank me later. I called the bank, gave them a list of all the charges. They were nice, but couldn't do much. Most of the charges were too old, and he had been authorized to use the card. All they could do was remove him. Now that damage was already done, and that was just the beginning. What happened next turned my whole world upside down. And I'll tell you everything they told me. If I wanted to take things further, I should file a police report, and maybe part of me wanted to. But just thinking about seeing Kenny again, maybe in a courtroom, maybe having to explain how he used my money without really stealing it. Since I gave him access, just made me feel tired. I didn't have the energy to fight. I already lost enough, so I called the locksmith that same afternoon to change the locks, even though it cost me $170 that I didn't really have, and my credit card was already at its limit. The idea of Kenny having a key and showing up again felt way worse than being more in debt. While the locksmith did his work, I grabbed every last bit of Kenny's things and stuffed them into garbage bags. His clothes, his awful protein powder that always hogged my cabinet space. I texted him once just to say his stuff would be outside by the dumpster for 24 hours, and then it was going to Goodwill. He showed up right when I was dragging the last bag outside, like he always knew the worst time to appear. He looked like he hadn't showered same clothes as yesterday, and for a second, I wondered where he'd slept. Before I reminded myself that it wasn't my problem anymore, he started talking, saying I didn't know the whole story, that Daria wasn't what I thought, and that he had planned to end things with her. But I didn't stop walking. I just kept dragging the bags when he reached out and grabbed my arm. I yanked it away so fast that I scraped my elbow on the brick, and I told him if he touched me again, I'd call the cops, and that shut him up. But I could feel his eyes on me while I walked back into my apartment. After 20 minutes, the locksmith handed me new keys, and for the first time in weeks, I actually felt like I could breathe again. The week that followed at work was a mess. I kept messing up and flinching. Every time my phone buzzed by Friday, I had caught up on some things, but I was completely worn out. My friend Jay asked me to go out for drinks to try and feel normal again, but I didn't have the money, so I said I was too tired. Then on Monday, my manager called me into her office, and I thought it was about some report I botched the week before. But it was worse. They were restructuring, and my position was gone. Just like that, they gave me 2 weeks and a severance check that wouldn't even cover my rent. I didn't cry, not in front of them. I just nodded, signed whatever they gave me, and went back to my desk like nothing happened. Then, I locked myself in the bathroom and had a full silent panic attack for 20 minutes that night. I called my mom. We aren't that close. She lives in Florida with her second husband, and we barely talk. But I needed someone to tell me it was going to be okay. She told me I should never have let Kenny move in without putting a ring on it first. And then she asked if I'd thought about coming back to stay with her. The idea of sleeping on her pull-out couch while listening to her husband rant about politics made me feel sick. I couldn't do it. So I stayed and spent those 2 weeks sending out job applications, 73 in total, got 6 replies, but none of them led to second interviews. Just rejection after rejection by the time I cleaned out my desk. I was already living on nothing. I still tried to keep a routine, wake up, apply for jobs, eat cheap lunch, apply again, walk around to save electricity, eat dinner, watch free stuff on YouTube, and sleep and repeat by week. 2, my bank account was under $100. I canceled Netflix, stopped using hot water, ate nothing but ramen and eggs. I called the electric company, begged them for a payment plan. I called my landlord and told him rent would be late. He said I had until the 15th, or else the fee would hit. The 15th came and went. I sold my watch on eBay, my clothes on Poshmark, and tried to sell my TV on Facebook, but no one offered anything close to what it was worth. And then my phone buzzed. It was Kenny again, new number, new phone, or maybe borrowed. He said Daria found out everything and dumped him. He said he was sorry and wanted to explain. I blocked the number right away, but it rattled me. Not because I cared, but because it reminded me how badly I had failed at protecting myself. I let this man into my life, into my home, and he treated me like I was just something to use. By the end of the month, I was desperate. My landlord was leaving angry voicemails. My power was shut off for 2 days, and I had been eating nothing but rice for 3 days straight. I finally gave in and applied for temporary assistance. The whole thing was so degrading, I had to fill out forms, explain every penny of my life. And then they told me I made too much before to qualify right now, and handed me a list of food banks the next day. I stood in line at one, gave them my ID and proof of address, and smiled while they handed me boxes of canned food and bread that was nearly moldy. I carried it home on the bus, feeling like the whole city was watching me. Even though no one cared that night, I got an email from a warehouse that needed temp workers. The pay was terrible, but I didn't care. I said yes right away, had a phone call the next morning, and started work that Monday. It was hell on my body, 10 hours a day, lifting boxes in freezing cold or unbearable heat. I came home sore every night, too tired to even apply for better work. But I made just enough to pay some rent, not all of it. But my landlord agreed to wait a little longer, as long as I paid the late fees. Then one day, I came home and found an eviction notice taped to the door. I had 30 days to pay everything or get out. I sat on the floor holding that paper and just felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness, just empty. Then my neighbor knocked. She saw the notice and asked if I was okay. I said I was, even though I wasn't, and she asked if I wanted a roommate. Her cousin Rosalie needed a place for a while. If we split rent 3 ways, maybe it would work. I didn't know this neighbor, but in that moment, she was the closest thing to a miracle. I said yes. Rosalie moved in 2 days later, paid her share up front, and didn't ask questions about why I only ate rice for dinner. We weren't friends, but we got along, and with her help, I paid off enough to stop the eviction. I was still drowning in debt, still broke, still eating like a student during finals, but I wasn't homeless, and that had to count for something. 3 months after I kicked Kenny out, I was rushing to catch the bus when I ran into someone on the street. I mumbled, "Sorry," without looking up, and then I heard my name. It was Kenny, standing there in a fast food uniform. I tried to walk past, but he blocked me, said he wanted to talk, said he made a mistake. His phone looked like an old flip phone, not the shiny one he used to brag about. I guess karma really does circle back. I told him I was late for work and pushed by him. He yelled, "After me," but I didn't turn back that night. I couldn't sleep, not because I missed him, but because I was scared he knew where I lived. So I jammed a chair under my door, like that would help the next morning. There was a letter in the mailbox, no stamp, just my name, and I knew it was him. I didn't even open it, just ripped it up and threw the pieces into different trash bins on the way to the bus. I knew he wouldn't stop, and I was right. The very next day, during my lunch break, I took a longer route and walked straight into the medical office, the one I had passed a dozen times, without giving it a second thought. I asked the receptionist for the manager, fully expecting to be told to fill something out online, or maybe just leave my resume at the desk and go instead. She nodded and led me back to a cramped little office where a tired woman was eating a sandwich while going through some folders. She looked up at me with curious eyes, scanned my resume briefly, then asked me about my experience with logistics. I barely got through 2 sentences before she cut in, asking how soon I could start organizing their supply closet. It wasn't full-time, only 20 hours a week to begin with, just keeping track of medical supplies and arranging small deliveries. But it paid $3 more per hour than the warehouse. The hours were flexible, and it actually used my brain instead of just my back. I accepted right away, without hesitation, for a few weeks. I juggled both jobs, working early mornings at the medical office and dragging myself to the warehouse at night. It was exhausting, more than I had imagined, but for the first time in what felt like forever. I could pay my bills when they were due. I'd come home completely drained, sometimes barely managing to eat. Rosalie had started cooking extra portions for both of us, without saying much. Just doing it after noticing how much I had let myself go physically. By the middle of January, I'd saved enough to walk away from the warehouse my last day. There I didn't cry or feel nostalgic. I just felt free as I handed in my badge and walked out without looking back. The supervisor seemed caught off guard. I think they'd assumed I would just keep enduring it forever. One coworker gave me an awkward half hug and said she was glad I got out. The medical office wasn't glamorous by any means, but it was steady, and the manager kept increasing my hours. As I showed up consistently, by February, I was up to 35 hours, and even got my own little desk in the back corner, where I tracked inventory on a painfully slow old computer. With my paychecks finally coming in regularly, I started slowly chipping away at the debt. Kenny left me $20 here, $50 there, just small dents. But watching those numbers shrink gave me a control I hadn't felt in ages. Rosalie and I fell into a rhythm. We weren't besties or anything, but there was comfort in sharing space with someone respectful and calm. She had started seeing someone new, a quiet guy, who sometimes stayed for dinner. He was the kind of presence that didn't demand anything. It was refreshing to not feel tense in my own home anymore. My back still ached, my tooth still flared up now and then, but I was moving forward at my own pace. Then Valentine's Day came around. I had tried hard to ignore all the red hearts, the commercials, the people making plans. Rosalie and her boyfriend had dinner reservations, so I had the place to myself. My plan was thrilling frozen pizza and Netflix. I was halfway through a slice when someone started knocking. Not a casual knock, but loud, urgent pounding, the kind that instantly spikes your anxiety. I froze pizza in midair. I already knew who it was. Kenny. No one else knocked like that. I crept to the door and peeked through the peephole, and there he was holding a sad little bouquet and a tiny box. I backed away, hoping maybe he'd think I wasn't home. He knocked again, then started saying my name, told me he knew I was there, said he just wanted to talk, to explain, to fix things. I didn't say a word, my heart thudding in my chest. After a few long minutes, I heard him sigh. Then something hit the floor, and he walked off. I waited a while before opening the door. There were some grocery store roses and a velvet ring box, along with a handwritten card. I should have just left it there and shut the door, but I was curious. I picked up the box first. Inside was a simple silver ring with a small stone, maybe a diamond, maybe not. The card said he knew he couldn't undo the damage, but he wanted to try. This was the ring he should have given me, instead of her, and he hoped I'd call him. I stared at it for a long time, but felt absolutely nothing. Not hurt, not mad, not even disgusted, just numb. This man wrecked me and thought a discount ring would fix it. I tossed the ring and the card into the trash near the elevator, left the flowers for anyone else who wanted them, locked the door behind me, and finished my cold pizza. The next morning, I woke up to a message from an unknown number. It was Kenny, again asking if I go. His gift, I didn't block it this time. I simply replied, "Move on." And then I blocked that number too. February faded into March. I kept getting more hours at the office. I paid off one of my smaller credit cards. Rosalie and I repainted the living room one Sunday, covering up the ugly beige walls with a cool, soft gray. It somehow made the whole apartment feel newer and brighter. My mom called out of the blue. She said I sounded more like myself and offered to help with the tooth situation if I visited. I wasn't sure how I felt about it, since my stepdad and I had always had friction, but I was seriously tempted to get the pain dealt with. Kenny finally backed off. No more texts, no more surprise visits occasionally. I checked Daria's Instagram. She'd moved on with some new guy. Kenny's profile was inactive for months. I was still rebuilding piece by piece. And no, I wasn't the person I used to be before all of this. But maybe that was a good thing. Maybe I was stronger now, more careful, more grounded. Life moved forward. My hours increased to full time, and I got actual benefits. I finally got my tooth fixed during a weekend visit with my mom. Rosalie ended up moving in with her boyfriend, but I found a new roommate through someone at work, a grad student who kept to herself, paid on time, and didn't steal from the fridge. My credit score inched up slowly. I started saving a little each month, just in case rainy days still made my back ache, and I still checked the locks twice before bed, out of habit. But I had something now, something stable, last month. Jay texted me, said she ran into Kenny at a coffee shop. He mentioned me, said he was moving to Pittsburgh for a fresh start. I told her thanks, but didn't think much of it. Him moving sounded like the best-case scenario, which is why I was completely stunned when I opened my door the following week and saw him standing there, holding a small gift bag. I nearly shut the door on him then and there. But he looked different, healthier, well-dressed. He quickly raised his hands and said he wasn't staying, just passing through, that he wanted to leave something with me. I hesitated, but took the bag. Inside was a small jewelry box and an envelope. The envelope had $1,500 in cash. The box had a ring, the one he gave to Daria. The one I had unknowingly paid for when I confronted him. He told me she had thrown it at him when she left. He kept it, thinking he'd pawn it, but never did. He wasn't offering it as a romantic gesture. He made that clear. He was just returning what technically belonged to me. He said I could keep it, sell it, trash it, whatever. He had a job lined up in Pittsburgh, and he was going to keep sending payments until everything he owed was repaid. He told me again that he was sorry, truly sorry, especially for the cruel things he said, that I didn't deserve any of it, and he hoped I found better. Then he waved goodbye and walked away. Just like that, the next day, I took the ring to a jeweler. It was worth less than I thought, smaller stone, cheap setting. I got just under $1,000 for it and dropped the money straight into savings. So that's it. That's the end of the Kenny chapter for real this time. I'm okay. The medical office gave me a small raise last month. My new roommate is quiet and respectful. Rosalie and I still meet for brunch now. And then on rainy days, my back still twinges, and I still glance at the door twice before bed. But I'm building something real. Something mine. Maybe Kenny will change. Maybe he won't. I don't spend time thinking about it anymore. I've stopped tying my plans to other people's promises. Thank you all for following this journey. Your support pulled me through more than once on days when I thought I couldn't take anymore. I probably won't post again. This chapter is over, and I'm finally at peace with that. Sometimes the people who hurt us the most teach us how strong we really are. If this story hit home, subscribe for more stories that remind you you're not alone. And share this video with someone who's learning to trust themselves again.